Hi, everybody. I'm sorry to all the people who are coming to every event and have to hear the same little opening speech over and over again. Um, Actually, one of the comments I got from last year is please make your speech shorter. So I did. Welcome everyone to our fifth day of our 8 days of the Spring Rights Literary Festival. I am Robin Schwartz, the Program and Grant Director for the Community Arts Partnership of Tompkins County. And this 12th annual Spring Rights Festival is just one of the programs and services of the Community Arts Partnership. And our website, if you want to check it out, is artspartner.org, and I'm going to put it in the chat. And I wanted to introduce Leah. Leah is a co-host on the call, and Leah Davis. She is available if you need technical help for any of your events or actually help for any of your events. I want to thank our sponsors, Ithaca College, Wegmans, the Odyssey Bookstore, M&T Bank, and the Marriott in Ithaca. We also have funds from the New York State Council on the Arts and Poets and Writers. So this call has two other events after it. After this reading called Life Studies, there's a panel, Succeeding in an Alternate Universe, Pros and Cons of Independent Presses and Self-Publishing. And then at 6:15, there's a reading and event, Bob Prohl in conversation with Tom Dunn. There will be some gaps between the events, so you can take a little break. Oh, and there are 8 workshops happening from December through March. We would love it if you were able to donate to the Community Arts Partnership and support everything we do with our tiny staff. It's support not only for the festival, but for the organization, basically help us stay in our seats and doing what we do. I'm going to put a link into the chat for that as well. You will all be on mute throughout the events, but let's use the chat function to comment, to ask questions, to talk to each other. If you haven't used chat before, you can send a message to everyone, or you could talk to just one person. So I also, oh, I didn't mention this. I download the chat and forward it to, if you have something that you want the writers to know, I can forward them the whole chat thing. So I don't remember whether I already mentioned that we are taping all of these events. And if you go to springrights.org, you can already see the events from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So thanks everyone for being here. And I'm going to turn the program over to the first reader, Yvonne Fisher.
Hi, hello. Okay, so I'm going to read 4 short stories that I wrote at different times in my life for life studies. The first one was from last February, right before the pandemic lockdown. It's called Comfort Road. Sometimes I live in my home downtown alone, completely alone. And sometimes I live in the country on Comfort Road with my family. That house is made of logs. Logs are sturdy and strong and soothing. Inside, the pine walls are very reassuring. The fire is made with wood. The house is warm and cozy. The cats are curled up in front of the fire. You can always hear them purr. The dogs are lying on the bed. They are safe and they are happy. The pigs are in their pen in the barn. They are lying on a soft bed of hay and straw. The whole scene is supreme comfort on Comfort Road until all hell breaks loose. The snow outside is piled so high we can hardly get in and out. The front door doesn't close properly, so it's continually blowing open by the howling wind as if a ghost were entering the house. The dogs are trying to eat the cat food. The cats are bringing in rodents to play with and kill without mercy. The blood and carnage is everywhere. It's like a crime scene. Andy goes to sleep very early and I wander around the small house tiptoeing so as not to wake her. My knee hurts, my back hurts. Everything seems to hurt. I'm trapped at night in the tundra, too dark and snowy to go outside. My mind spins out like a mad woman, imagining all sorts of horrendous scenarios. I think about my friend who just died. I think about kids in cages. I think about every sad thing. Then I try to meditate. I hum, I sing, I doodle, I read. Nothing helps. I walk in circles. I try to go to sleep. Andy wakes up. I fall asleep. Andy wakes me. Howie the dog wakes us both. Puma the cat throws up an avalanche of vomit. Andy wakes up to clean it. I'm up and can't sleep. We turn on the TV. We both fall back to sleep. The cat takes over Goldie, the dog's bed, so that Goldie has to wander around the house looking for another dog bed. I'm up. Andy is sleeping. The door blows open. I fall asleep. Andy is up at 4 a.m. Time for her to start her day. I fall into a deep sleep. I hear the fire roaring, the washing machine going, the dogs eating breakfast, the cats drinking cream. I smell the minestrone soup cooking on the stove. I wake up a few hours later with Howie in bed cuddling with me. I look out the window at the beautiful, serene scene of silent snow covering everything. I smell the coffee being made. The fire is keeping us toasty warm. I'm the luckiest person in the world. I'm content on Comfort Road. The next one was written not last summer during pandemic, but the summer before that. It's Call Me Ishmael. We were out in the middle of Cayuga Lake in the burning heat of July on Jim's boat called the Venetian Muse. All of us laughing, enjoying, floating away from everything, all our troubles and worries, all our fears and horrors, for an hour or two floating away from it all. We were rocking lightly on the water, glimmering ripples, unrelenting sunshine, away from the toxic algae on the shores, away from the house flooding and disarray and construction, away from friends sick and dying for an hour or two on the lake in the scorching heat of climate change, so oppressive it's hard to breathe, and welcome to the future. It's here now, but not right here, not at this moment, floating on the lake like this. Everything else disappearing just for this moment, with my writing friends floating on the lake. No sharks in this water, no whales, no great white majestic whale. If I were Ishmael, I would welcome the whale. I would honor the whale. I would feed it fish or crackers and cheese. I would pet its perfect tough skin. I would give it what it wants, what it needs and deserves, whatever it wants. I would give it Captain Ahab himself if I could, a little treat, a snack. I would sacrifice myself to live in the belly of the whale like Jonah did, or so it's told. I would look around and make a home under the water in the belly of the whale. I would adapt because the great white whale is bigger and brighter and more beautiful and more important than I am by far, and I would bow down and defer to it. Why not? Why not put down the sword and take a different approach? If I save you, will you save me? Is there room enough for all of us? Maybe the instinct to fight for my life would take over, but it's hard to see that as I float on the water with my friends laughing, open, peaceful, grateful, away. The next one I wrote 4 years ago in my wonderful writing group with Zee Zahava, mentoring and leading us for many, many years. This is called In the Kitchen. In the kitchen, we sat at a small round table eating close together. In the kitchen, I pumped my Bosco chocolate syrup into my milk every morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pumps of chocolate. I grew up on a diet with a lot of sugar and potato chips. In the kitchen, we could look out the window in the early years and actually see the Empire State Building all the way in the distance. Could that possibly be true? The sunsets were incredible in that housing project where we lived. In the kitchen, we ate goulash all the time, my parents' food from Poland and Austria. I spit out the fat from the meat and pushed it under the rim of the plate, hoping my mother wouldn't see it. In the kitchen, my mother would threaten to hit us with a wooden spoon when we were bad or fighting with each other, my brother Michael and me. Every time my mother would open the drawer with the wooden spoon, we would scream and beg her and promise to be good. In the kitchen, I never wanted to eat. In the kitchen, the TV would be on, blasting in the living room while we ate our meals. In the kitchen, one day, my father cut his arm and hit a vein or an artery, and blood spurted out everywhere while I watched in horror. In the kitchen, there was a rotary phone with a ringlet cord where we would all talk on the phone. My mother would gossip in German and Yiddish to her friends for hours. In the kitchen, I sat by that phone and waited for my boyfriend to call. In the kitchen, my parents found a used washing machine on the street and brought it home. And when they opened the top, 1,000,000 cockroaches ran out while I watched in horror. In the kitchen, I quietly snuck cookies at night after everyone went to sleep. I couldn't stop eating cookies, cookie after cookie after cookie. In the kitchen, I stayed up all night typing my report for school the night before it was due on an old rusty typewriter. In the kitchen, I couldn't see the Empire State Building anymore after they built that tall apartment building across the street. I couldn't see the sunsets anymore. There was only a little sky left. In the kitchen, I listened to the radio when I came home for lunch while my mother sang along. I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck. In the kitchen, I fought with my mother about when I would wash the dishes. I washed them as late as I possibly could. In the kitchen, I danced around while my brother was seriously learning to cook. In the kitchen, I read books there because I had no place else to go. In the kitchen, we ate creamed spinach, creamed corn, everything was creamed. In the kitchen, my father died. He collapsed right there in the kitchen. I called the doctor on the rotary phone. He said he would come over. We waited for the doctor to come. My mother was leaning over my father's body. My brother was playing knock hockey at the community center. I was standing at the door waiting for the doctor. When the doctor came, he told my mother to give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. They closed the door to the kitchen. I didn't see when my father died. My mother walked from room to room, sobbing. I followed her from room to room. My father lay dead in the kitchen. Someone went to get my brother. A week later, we sat in the kitchen. It was Thanksgiving. We had no turkey. We had no Thanksgivings after that. In the kitchen, we sat around the little table and looked out the window at what was left of the sky. And the last piece was written last April after the pandemic started, about a month and a half later in lockdown. And it's called The Earth Said, Remember Me. The Earth's so happy when we stay home, sheltered, watching Zoom, TV, movies. The Earth is dancing around. It can breathe again. It can take a breath while we sit home eating bread and cheese. The Earth emerging, looking good again, clearing the air so sweet, the sky blue as can be, no smog, no fog, all spacious, joyful, precious. Look up, look up, look out through the window, see the sky, the clouds, the trees, all happy, while we sit at home, putting on our masks. The earth can see again for miles and miles, endless, wild, growing flowers every color. Beyond belief, beyond the pale, while we sit home looking at our phones. The earth cleaned, clear, quiet, only a hush of earth sounds, wind and leaves and grass and breath. The earth breathes out a sigh of relief while we sit home sheltered, keeping each other safe. The earth joyful, glorious, busy. We can see the Taj Mahal, the mountains and the seas, so clear the fish are jumping. The cotton is high. The animals coming out of hiding, they can wander about all over the earth. Their world, exploring the sacred ground, the grass and the forests, the towns and the villages, the empty streets, the whole wide world for them to explore, their home, their world, as we sit sheltered, curling up in a ball or doing jumping jacks, giving the earth a break at last. The earth so happy, spacious, joyous, quiet, no damn people mucking around, making everything dirty, slimy, filthy, smoggy, with machines, bad habits, greed, and stupidity. Thinking we're the dominant ones, brought down by a germ. As the earth opens up and the animals graze free from fear for once, and the birds sing their happy songs, we sit home giving to each other as we can, love and compassion, care and food, medicine and kindness, money and soft words, shelter and sadness, resilience and awakening, some of us. And the earth rises grandly, masterfully, majestically, glorious, hopeful earth. Thank you. Next is Rob Sullivan. Okay.
Thank you, Yvonne. I'm always so astonished and in awe of your reading every week in our group. All right, in our group, we responded for years to the prompts of Zee Zahava, and she encouraged me to write a book about my life in the post office before I joined the group. And I came out with that book this past year. It's called Postscripts. I'm going to do a few selections from that, and then some more recent selections that also came from the same group. One number off, 5-week delay. 5 simple numbers in a letter can fly straight to any address in the US, but a 1 mistaken for a 7 can send it 1,800 miles off course. Upon arrival at the wrong post office, the letter is put aside for rerouting. If the office is large, busy, and understaffed, that letter will be stockpiled. For the facility, being shorthanded, job 1 is getting first-class mail out on the street, each day collecting letters and packages to go out each night for dispatch. It's all about looking good. Numbers concern management. Other parts of the picture are ignored, so that someone's letter that is misdirected can sit for 5 weeks with thousands of other letters for the few workers remaining to get around to it. This is always a great tragedy that comes as collateral damage, downsizing to the point of sabotaging the service. So the post office could be privatized and some fat cats could make a killing at the people's expense. End of the line. Before the annex, prior to the 1Q line, early in my career, there were 5 long lines. When one window clerk left for lunch, another would open their station, take all customers in the same fair order. One busy day, I returned to take my coworker's line. I opened, everyone moved as one, but one type A personality barged ahead. I counted 30 silent seconds. Then in a voice loud enough to be heard throughout the lobby said, "I've waited all my life to be in a position of power to say, 'Sir, you cut in, get to the back of the line.'" The man left the lobby and the lobby erupted in applause. Two stamps a week. Each Tuesday, like clockwork, he would enter smiling a tired smile. One bill paid, one letter sent. One short foray into weather prediction, then gone. On to the next errand, appointment, and timid smile, trying to stay in touch with the social niceties that came before his life reached retirement, and it put a monkey wrench into the works that ran like a fine Swiss watch, his parting gift. Sorting in the groove. Sometimes stars align, biorhythms attune, coffee pumps through veins, sorting in the groove. Addresses, scheme makes perfect sense. Letters fly into cases, very present tense. Eye scan to next, last piece not settled in previous slot. Minimum effort. Each address ignites synapses, sending letters towards a point in space and time, not a route number. Reach that state of now, flowing one-pointed, speeding carriers to appointed rounds. Christmas Day delivery. There was a year late in my career when I volunteered to work all 10 holidays, thinking someone with a family could spend more time at home. It took my mind off my lack of a son, wife, and stepdaughter. There was an element of fun and a challenge to get the mail sorted. The 10th holiday was Christmas. I came in early, so I could drive south to my sister's home for a dinner which couldn't be beat. I was asked to deliver a few express pieces on my way out of town, which was fine with me. The last stop was a trailer park. When I arrived, 3 kids started bouncing off the walls. Their mom answered the door and signed for presents from their dad, who couldn't be with them. She said, "I'm sorry you have to work on Christmas Day, but you just made 3 kids very, very happy." The drive on to my own Christmas dinner now attained a lush, warm glow that connected me to childhood and to personhood beyond distance through time towards an imperfect happiness. These last two, well, this one particularly actually did happen on my last day of work. Crow's Serenade Farewell. Front door opened even earlier on last workday's dawning. Ancient songs sung by 50 shining black winged souls. Their relations had flown with me between seen and unseen worlds since the first days of memory and life upon life before. Assuring thought warmed January morning. They were speaking to me in tongues. I should stop, look, listen, while sky and landscape opened before me. Tooling down the road, favorite song on car tape deck, 5 or 6 winged brothers sang backup, escorting me. In the fields opposite Eco Village, they were 150 strong. I drove down the hill in awe, still not prepared for the chorus to come. In the parking lot behind the post office, I stood for 5 minutes, transfixed, as close to 2,000 crows were on East Hill serenading farewell and welcoming me home again. Soaking in the moment of ecstasy, I reveled in my release, to fly once more, to let my spirit soar, to listen within and without, to hear the call of God, answer and follow. And finally, I was blessed to work in Ithaca. And here's my ode to Ithaca. An honor to have worked here, a place so rare and precious, city once chosen to be singled out among the rest. If the Finger Lakes were the imprint of God's hand on earth, his index finger would point to Ithaca. Bumper stickers state it's 10 square miles surrounded by reality. Pundits pontificate, it routinely makes top 10 lists. More groups are present than full-time residents. If there's a cause or concern, it has a following, an ear in Ithaca. A power place, a vortex, and no rain on Cornell graduation for 25 plus years. Talk about knowing people in high places. Caring for humanity, a thirsting for peace, hungering for equality, to learn, to teach, with an exceptional patience for questions, embracing hard work, but celebrating play. Ithaca, where music fills the air and there's dancing in the streets. And then I have a few poems from more recent vintage of my group. The first one is Ill Fate. Many sets of little eyes surveyed the world. Warmth, food, and attention came to most of them, essential to thrive. One by one, each pair of eyes learned the world did not revolve around their wishes and whims, save for a handful who were ill-fated actors on life's stage, who neglected others to manifest a destiny they saw as their right to always have more than their share and grab the spotlight. This selfish streak damned them to never find love that was true, to never know the healing of peace. The tribe had no choice but to vote them out, to ban and shun them, and pray one day they might come to their senses alone. I met my Savior today, and she was surprised in her gentle way at how very long it took me to turn around. She had been whispering my name in the rolling tides, on the gentle breezes, in each bird's call and song, since before the day I was born and long after the day I will die. I met my Savior today, and we have so much to catch up on. The smell of coffee begins the task of loosening the inner critic to free thoughts to fly. The smell of coffee makes all things possible. All problems contain solutions. All is not lost. The smell of coffee is followed by the taste of the sunshine of the spotless mind. So much noise. Talk, 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 blah, blah, blah. So much noise. Busy, busy mind rushes past recurring image in a stream of snapshots. A child sits alone and afraid, crying in sadness and anger for comfort and love. The flip folder of illusion speeds by so quickly, it's as though the scene really did exist, a trick of the light, a trick of the tail. But that is a part of me, that child whimpering in the dark. He needs attending to get on with life, to see the gossamer thin veil that hides each image from the sun, moon, and stars, from the light within you that I honor with each breath. So come to me, little one. I'll hold you through the night and the livelong day. And finally, this one is dedicated to my wife, who has been my longtime dance partner. Valse du Amor. A hint of a breeze wafted through the dance tent. Finally, she was free for a dance and a short interchange. The Cajun band began a waltz, and we assumed the position, frame strong but supple, moving as one around the dance floor in 3/4 time. We wished the tune could go on forever and a day, and somehow it has. Now I turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Mary Roberts.
Thanks, Rob. Let's see. Okay. Thank you everybody for being here. This is so great. Rob, Yvonne, and I have written together for many years in Zee Zahava's writing group. And they're also dear friends. So I'm so glad you both could join me for this today. And Rob is a great dancer. So if anybody has ever had a Zydeco dance, in days when we can dance with our friends again, you should ask him to dance because he's a great leader. I'm currently in Bloomington, Indiana. I started an MFA in ceramic art this fall. So I'm really happy that I can be here via Zoom with everybody. So I have a few pieces to read this afternoon, some of which I wrote in Zee's writing group many years ago. So I have an assortment of things. This first one is inspired by a postcard by Edward Gorey. It's a scene of these tall, slender, pale figures in a graveyard. He's a kind of quirky illustrator who does a lot about death and creepy subjects. So this is called Theodore and the Lobster, parentheses, graveyard. It's 3 a.m. and she's counting lobsters on the dock, holding her stomach and sipping bitter coffee. Daydreaming an early morning's dream, she imagined corsets in a dress shop window and all the strangers passing by. She is standing on her head and they are astonished and aghast, tripping over mud puddles and spitting out their cigarette butts. 4 a.m. and she's at a crowded garden party where her 15 aunts dance a jig to the Russian national anthem. 5 a.m. and she is standing in a dark place, surrounded by pale, slender figures, dressed in black from head to toe, murmuring this and that amongst themselves. Can I go inside now, please? For a moment, she caught a glimpse of the irony of it all. A flying baby dragon in the sky? The man who looked so serious and stern clutched his teacup and saucer with his delicate, soft baby hands. Why, yes, this is Darjeeling. He sends Aunt Margaret rolling over with laughter in her grave again and again. Why, yes, a spoonful of sugar, please, and cream right to the top. You know how I like it, mocks Margaret to herself, growing more and more lighthearted even after she's passed. He's never even seen a corpse in his life, she cackles. I'm more dead than he'll ever be. Humph, this cupcake is rather stale. The winter sky of her living room was illuminated by the grand chandelier, a spectacle for all the family to see. The house cats were like teenagers sunning themselves on an August beach, somewhere off the coast of Acapulco. A fabulous vacation it was. I think I'm gaining weight, said Kibbles, the elegant Norwegian forest cat. You gaining weight? Honey, you look great, responded Fluffy, the equally striking black and white tabby cat, a supportive friend and companion. No, seriously, ever since we got that extra jar of treats around Christmas, all I can do is eat. And ever since Doris started buying canned food, her proportions have been way off the charts. Honestly, I don't think she wants to waste the damn stuff, so she just slops it into the food bowl, and hence my feline curves. The rug had lice. thick, white, blood-sucking lice, preying on Persian motifs, Celtic wool, and Egyptian cotton rag ties, handmade, tightly stitched, full of color. Eating away at the material, they developed cavities from indigo and onion skins, goldenrod that had faded over the years. The lobsters were red, a distinct, earthy, and soothing red. One brightened with the rising of the sun, the coming of the day. Once drenched in an ocean of blue, now basked in a sea of light. This one is called Pink Cup. I wanted to hold you up to my mouth, between my hands, and feel your warmth and delicacy. It is small, soft, smooth against my lips, intact and whole, an artifact from the moment it was created, its time and place, place and time. Soft pink and gold luster, it is embellished with ornamentation. Bone china from the bones of the earth, kaolin, flint, ball clay for plasticity, excavated and mined, filtered and purified. A piece of the ground turned to stone forever and ever. Make sure it's what you want because it will be here forever. Make sure it's what you want because it'll be resting in the mantle sooner or later. A voice of all those before and after, a constant presence staring you down, sitting, collecting dust over time, 3 decades of waiting. So pretty, I don't want to touch. So delicate, I'm afraid it will break. My lip is bleeding as I set it down. Careful, careful, be careful still, I say. Some porcelain is made so thin you can see right through it. Right through it, I say. Yes, you can see right through it. Not across the room, out the window, and across the street to where your neighbors are mowing the lawn or shoveling the sidewalk, I should say, but enough to bring a sudden glow and radiant warmth to the eye. Comfort, comfort, fleeting or everlasting. Careful, careful, please be careful. Ornamentation gray and gold, it's waiting on the table, sipped and caressed, held and put down, rinsed off, wiped off, waiting to dry, sitting still. Afternoon spent casting shadows, upright and uptight, growing older than you and me and this house we live in, yes. Sparking curiosity in the cat. Careful, careful, careful still. An apartment of spider webs and winged visitors, a parade of ants on a summer's day. I draw my lips to it and set it down. Its persistent resistance, an example of its purpose. Back straight and legs crossed, don't slurp your tea. Fingers crossed, I lift it again. Vulnerable yet strong, what if I drop it? Will it break into 1,000 pieces, exposing its inner core? Will it be embarrassed or ashamed? Will I be embarrassed or ashamed? I meant to do that. Really, I did. Just a dusting upon the floor. Pink dust disguised as glass. Aren't we lucky to have such beautiful dirt on the floor? Shimmering with gold and soft patterns. That contrast, its sharp edges. Lovely, really, very lovely. Steady, strong. It is not 1 piece, but 2. Matching, yes. Don't pick it up. No, just leave it there. A lady in her bloomers, a man in his hat, man and wife, 2 parts of the same tree. No, please be careful. Don't touch. Please don't touch. Set it down. Okay, this next piece is called Spring is Not. Spring is not still. Spring is not dry. Spring is not loud, quiet, or patient. Spring is not summer sitting on the beach. Spring is not red, purple, or blue. Spring is not a race car. Spring is not a stopwatch. Spring does not wait. Spring is not rude. Spring is not fearful or anxious. Spring is not winter, introverted and cold. Spring is not mature. Spring is not still, motionless, or asleep. Spring does not listen when you shout, oh, please, slow down, wait. Spring is not a nursery rhyme or a horror film. Spring is not a pair of boots. Spring is not a handkerchief, a matchbox, or a lamppost. Spring is not a song. Spring is not a bicycle. Spring is not a gas station. Spring is not a flashlight. Spring does not hold back. Okay, so this next piece is called Misconnections. Birds, beaks, and feathered friends. Stewart Park, 3 p.m., Thursday, April 2nd. You were standing with your flock, squawking and fighting over breadcrumbs. A small child reached for your beak, and I saw you pull back. I noticed your smooth feathers, soft and shimmery in the sunlight. I admire your perseverance and ability to be obnoxious in the face of golden retrievers and raging Uncle Earls. I think I may have caught your eye, somewhere between charging the squirrel and sweeping toward the picnic table. Do you prefer rye breadcrumbs or Kaiser rolls? I hang out near the tennis courts and parking lot a lot if you ever want to go scavenging. I'm always looking for friends in the sky. Yours, Beatrice. And this last piece is a bit of a work in progress, and it's taken a couple different forms. And today I'm going to call it Sea Level in Threes, like the number 3. Night sea crossing, ship and whale, as symbols at once related and opposed, Gothic miniature. Reaching for the whole, they pushed further through the night, past daydreams and passers-by, waiting for the bus in her mind's eye. Today she walked with a steady gaze and a firm step, one foot in front of the other. The mailman was late as usual, tripping on the wretched 3rd step. His curses echoed through the hall. I can't stand this, she said to herself, walking along the shore, skimming the water's edge. The tide was high and the sun began to set. April, May, and June she spent in San Francisco. July, August, September in Santa Fe. October, November, December in Santa Cruz. It was June 9th, 1929, midday on a sunny day. She made pasta 3 times that week, 4 times the last, and 5 times the week before. January, February, March in Cuba with her husband. April, May, June, writing a screenplay, taking care of her dying mother, courting 3 lovers, 2 Cuban, 1 French immigrant. July, August, September, 3 mental breakdowns, 2 new blazers, 1 small house, 0 people to talk to. October, November, December, on the phone for weeks, 1 with her son, getting divorced, 2 with her daughter, recovering from lung disease, 3 with herself, taking walks in the nearby park, feeding the dogs, grooming and walking them too. She could taste the salt on her face, in her hair and upon her lips. She detested all things sweet and sour and had a love for everything dried and pickled, roasted and cured. August 2nd, 1935, she is barreling down the highway with the top down, her top down, and a man she's never met before today. Her hair is as long as ever, golden brown against the wind, against the sun, diesel fumes and carbon debris, her hair a net for everything she left behind. Bottoms up in a field of lavender, glass and silver and gold everywhere. Her hair a sheet of ice, a sheet of lace, delicate against the soft lavender, churning, wishing, lapping her soft legs to sleep. Her desire for the ocean returned with a greater force than ever. Please let the sun set. Please let it rise and set again. I want to live and breathe and feel and know. I want to sleep. Please just let me sleep. The air, it tasted of pickle brine, of prosciutto, pistachios, mortadella, and wine, aged Gouda and cheddar, Asiago and Romano, all things intoxicating and liberating to her soul. You are alive and well. And we just have 5 minutes left if anybody has any questions. Thank you all so much for being here. If you'd like to write something in the chats, I think Robin or I will facilitate that. We've got another 5 or 10 minutes. So thank you all for being here.
And I wrote about maybe 4 minutes ago into the chat. Anyone have any questions? So do you have while we're waiting for people to write some questions, do you have questions for each other?
I have a question for Mary. How are your studies going? We miss you in Ithaca very much.
Thanks, Rob. It's going really well. I had my group critique, which is kind of like my art final on Monday, and that went really well. And I was actually going to send you and Yvonne some pictures of it all. So I'm just kind of resting up and then moving on to the next thing. So it's going really well. And I miss everybody in Ithaca.
Great.
I have a question for Yvonne.
Yes.
I know that, I mean, I learned from what you were reading that you were always reading and creative. Where did you start? Did you start with poetry, prose, playwriting, acting?
Well, yeah, I used to do theater when I was young, so I did a lot of theater. And when I moved back to Ithaca in the 90s and I first joined Zee Zahava's writing group, it was such an atmosphere of incredible encouragement and loving acceptance and respect that I could see each one of us kind of growing, and that really helped me. And there were a few years when I was in that group and I was taking care of my mother, who I had moved from New York City up to Ithaca. And it was very difficult. My mother was old and sick. And so I was writing about her every week, writing. And then that turned into a whole solo performance piece about me.
Right.
So yeah, it was just evolving.
Is Zee doing virtual writing groups now?
I don't think she is anymore.
She's sending sparks to like a Sunday salon kind of group, and then she'll send the written pieces back to everybody if anybody wants to share it. But I would love like a Zoom Zee group. I think that would be great.
You should do that. So Yvonne, I think I interrupted you, or Rob, I interrupted somebody. Were you going to ask a question before I spoke?
Well,
No?
I wondered if, for Mary, if you wrote those pieces more recently, or when did you write them?
These were actually from 2011 to 2015. So these are like pieces I'd written a few years ago, and now I'm just kind of going back to revisit them.
And I met Mary as a ceramist, ceramicist, which is right. Potter.
I say ceramic artist. I don't make pottery, so I'm not a potter, but I say ceramic artist. Yeah.
Are you doing? And so you're both. You think you do like equal time to writing and the visual art?
Well, now I'm in grad school for
right.
ceramic art, so that's definitely like more. But I think in general in my life, I mean, it kind of flip flops a little bit, I'd say.
Well, thank you, you guys. That was really nice. That was a great event.
Robin.
Thank you.